It started as nothing more than a shape on the side of the road. A stray, thin, scruffy, barely noticeable against the dirt and gravel. At first, people assumed he was just another lost dog, one of the many that wandered too far and forgot the way back. But then, days passed. Weeks. Months. And he never left. There, on the outskirts of town, where the cracked asphalt met the endless stretch of open land, he sat. Always in the same spot. Right by the old gas station that hadn't seen a customer in years, near the faded mile marker that no one paid attention to. Rain or shine. Summer heat or winter frost. He was there. At first, people tried to help. A truck driver passing through tossed him a burger, but he only sniffed it and turned away. A woman stopped with a bag of kibble, calling out softly, hoping he'd come closer. But the moment she stepped forward, he flinched, ears flat, body low, eyes filled with something deeper than fear. It was something worse. Something almost like waiting. A quiet kind of hope. The townspeople started calling him Buddy. No one knew where he came from, but his presence became part of the landscape. The gas station's rusted sign creaked in the wind, the tumbleweeds rolled past, and Buddy watched the road. Always the road. And always with that look. Cars came and went, their headlights sweeping over him in the dark, but he never moved. His gaze followed each one as if searching for a familiar face, a face that never came. Seasons changed. The summer sun beat down, turning the pavement into a scorching griddle. Buddy lay in the shade of the gas station, panting, his ribs showing through his dusty fur. Then autumn arrived, crisp and cool, leaves swirling around him as the wind picked up. But winter was the worst. The first snowfall should have sent him running for shelter, but he stayed, his paws buried in the frozen dirt. His fur, once a warm brown, became dull and matted. His eyes, once filled with silent determination, grew tired. Yet still, he waited. No one understood why. People whispered theories. Maybe he was abandoned, left behind by someone who promised they'd come back but never did. Maybe he had a home once, a family, a boy who loved him, and he just couldn't accept that they were gone. Or maybe he didn't belong to anyone at all. Maybe he was just lost. But if that were true, why didn't he leave? One night, a storm rolled in, the wind howling through the empty highway, rattling street signs and shaking the skeletal remains of an old billboard. The rain came in sheets, cold and merciless, but Buddy didn't move. He sat, soaked to the bone, his head low but his eyes still fixed on the road. Waiting. Watching. Hoping. The next morning, the storm was gone, leaving behind puddles and broken branches. The gas station's windows were fogged from the cold. And Buddy? He was still there. Wet. Shivering. Alone. 7 years. 7 winters. 7 summers. 7 Christmases where people drove past in warm cars, heading home to family and laughter, while Buddy stayed rooted in the same patch of dirt. Some pitied him. Others admired his loyalty. But no one, truly understood what he was waiting for. By the 3rd year, Buddy was no longer just a stray. He was a legend. A question no one could answer. A ghost that never left. People talked about him in hushed voices over morning coffee, shaking their heads as they glanced toward the old gas station. Parents pointed him out to their kids on long drives, telling them stories, some true, some not. Truckers swapped theories at rest stops, wondering why a dog would spend years in one place, braving storms and snow and blistering heat, without ever leaving. But no one knew for sure. Some believed he was abandoned, left on the roadside by someone who never looked back. Maybe he had once curled up in the passenger seat of a car, head resting against a boy's lap, not knowing that the last ride would be the end. Maybe he watched that car disappear over the horizon, too young to understand, too loyal to move on. Others thought he had a home, once. A family. A backyard where he chased fireflies. A bed where he curled up at night, safe and warm. Maybe something happened, a tragedy, an accident, and he had run, lost and confused, only to end up here, stuck in a moment he couldn't let go of. Or maybe, just maybe, he had been searching for someone all along. No one could say why he stayed, but everyone could see what it was doing to him. His fur, once thick and golden, grew dull, matted with dirt and dust. His paws, calloused from years on unforgiving pavement, bled in the winter, cracked under the summer sun. His eyes, once sharp with hope, dulled with exhaustion. He wasn't just waiting, he was fading. Sarah noticed first. She was one of the few who stopped every day, a warm-hearted woman with kind eyes and a quiet voice. She left food in the same spot every morning, always at a distance, never trying to force him close. For a long time, he ignored it. But one night, when the wind howled through the empty lot and hunger clawed at his belly, he ate. Still, he never let her near. She tried, oh, how she tried. Speaking softly, moving slow, waiting for that moment when he might finally trust. But the second she stepped too close, Buddy shrank back, eyes wary, body tense, as if the idea of love was something he couldn't afford to believe in. And he wasn't the only one who resisted. Shelter workers came with their trucks, their leashes, their gentle reassurances. Some approached with patience, others with quiet determination. But no matter how careful they were, Buddy always knew. The second they got too close, he was gone, a streak of brown and dust, slipping through the cracks of fences, vanishing into the night. By the time morning broke, he was back. In the same spot. Like he had never left at all. The town grew used to it, the failed rescues, the quiet refusals, the endless cycle of waiting. But with every passing year, the question grew heavier. How much longer could he last? How many more winters could his thin body survive? How many more summers could he endure before the heat took what the cold hadn't? 7 years. 7 years of turning away food unless it was left without a hand attached to it. 7 years of running from those who only wanted to help. 7 years of searching every passing car with tired, desperate eyes, hoping, waiting, holding on to something no one else could see. And the town began to wonder. Would he ever find what he was looking for? Or was he waiting for something that would never come? The morning air was sharp, the kind that bit through fabric and turned breath to mist. The gas station sat quiet beneath a sky the color of old steel, the sun hidden behind thick, unmoving clouds. Snow clung to the edges of the pavement, dirty and trampled from passing cars. The world felt still, like something was about to happen. Buddy lay curled in his usual spot, his body half buried in frost. His thin frame barely shivered anymore. He had learned long ago that cold was just another thing to endure. His ribs rose and fell in slow, steady movements, his eyes half-lidded but never fully closed. He was always watching. Always waiting. And then, headlights. A car pulled into the lot, slowing to a stop near the gas pumps. The engine rumbled for a moment before shutting off. A door opened. A man stepped out. Tall. Broad-shouldered. Dark hair dusted with gray. He wore a heavy coat, zipped to his chin, his breath curling in the cold as he exhaled. He looked around, scanning the station, the rusting pumps, the flickering neon sign, the cracked pavement. And then, he saw him. Buddy. The man's face changed. He froze, his brows pulling together, his eyes narrowing. Recognition flickered across his features, hesitation, disbelief, something deeper, something raw. His hands clenched at his sides, as if gripping something unseen. His chest rose with a deep breath. Then, slowly, he took a step forward. Buddy's ears twitched. Another step. Buddy lifted his head, his tired eyes locking onto the man's face. There was something familiar there, something buried beneath the years, hidden beneath the weight of time. The man swallowed hard, his voice barely above a whisper. Max. The name cut through the cold like a knife. Buddy's ears shot up. His muscles tensed. For the first time in 7 years, he didn't run. The man crouched, moving slowly, carefully. His hands trembled, but not from the cold. His breath hitched in his throat. He whispered the name again, softer this time. Max, is that you? Buddy didn't move. Not at first. His body remained rigid, frozen in place, his mind struggling to make sense of something that shouldn't be possible. Then, he inched forward. His paws pressed into the ice-crusted pavement, his movements slow, uncertain. His nose twitched, catching a scent that stirred something deep inside him. A scent that had once meant home. The man didn't speak. He didn't move. He just waited. Buddy stepped closer. One step. Then another. His tail, which had hung limp for years, gave the smallest flick. His breath came faster now, his heart pounding against his ribs. He reached the edge of the man's outstretched hand. Paused. Then, cautiously, he pressed his nose against the man's fingers. The moment stretched, silent, fragile, trembling on the edge of something neither of them could name. And then, like a dam breaking, it hit. Buddy staggered back, eyes wide, chest heaving. A sound left his throat, half whimper, half gasp, as if his body was remembering something his mind couldn't quite grasp. His head tilted, his ears twitching wildly, his tail trembling. The man sucked in a breath, his eyes wet, his voice cracking. Oh my God. And then, Buddy moved. Not away. Not this time. Forward. Fast. Straight into the man's arms. The world around them faded. The wind howling through the empty gas station. The rumble of distant cars on the highway. The crunch of frost beneath boots. None of it mattered. It was just the man and the dog, the past and the present colliding in a single, trembling moment. Daniel's breath hitched. His fingers fumbled as he reached into his coat pocket, pulling out his phone with shaking hands. His thumb swiped across the screen, searching, scrolling, until, there. A picture. A memory frozen in time. A younger version of Buddy sat in the photo, his golden fur shining in the summer light. A boy knelt beside him, grinning ear to ear, his arms wrapped tightly around the dog's neck. A boy Daniel had once known better than anyone. A boy who had been his whole world. His son. Daniel's throat tightened. His vision blurred. 7 years. 7 years of believing Max was gone. 7 years of guilt, of grief, of a hollow ache that never left. 7 years of thinking he had lost the last piece of his son forever. But Max had never given up. He had waited. Through blistering summers. Through bitter winters. Through hunger and loneliness and the slow, cruel passing of time. He had waited, just like Daniel's son would have wanted him to. Just like Daniel should have. The weight of it crushed him. His knees hit the pavement. His voice came out in a choked whisper. Come here, Buddy. Max hesitated. Just for a second. His eyes, dark and weary, searched Daniel's face, as if making sure this wasn't another cruel trick of the mind. Then, he moved. Not slowly. Not cautiously. Not like the stray who had spent years flinching from touch. Like a dog who had just found his way home. Max barreled into Daniel's chest, the impact knocking the breath from his lungs. His body shook with whimpers, his tail thrashed wildly, his paws scrambled for something solid, something real. He pressed against Daniel as if trying to burrow into him, as if terrified that if he let go, everything would disappear. Daniel's arms wrapped around him, holding tight, burying his face into the matted fur. Max smelled like dirt, like cold air, like the past 7 years of loss. But underneath it all, there was something familiar. Something Daniel never thought he'd feel again. Home. His fingers curled into Max's fur, his shoulders shaking. Tears slipped down his face, hot against frozen skin. He whispered the name again, over and over. Max. Max, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Max only pressed closer, his cries muffled against Daniel's coat. He didn't care about the years lost. The hunger. The cold. The pain. None of it mattered anymore. Because the wait was over. The dog who had never left was finally going home. The news spread fast. By sundown, the whole town knew. The stray that had haunted the gas station for 7 years, the dog no one could catch, the ghost no one could help, was gone. But for the first time, it wasn't because he had run. It wasn't because he had vanished into the cold, slipping through the cracks like he always did. This time, he had been found. Sarah stood by the station window, staring at the empty patch of pavement where Max had once waited. Her hands trembled as she clutched her coat, her heart pounding in her chest. She had always wondered, always feared, that one day she would drive past and see nothing but silence. That he would be gone, but not like this. Not in a way that gave her hope. A tear slipped down her cheek. The shelter workers who had spent years trying to rescue him sat in stunned silence, their coffee growing cold in their hands. They had tried. Again and again. And they had failed. But now they understood. Max hadn't been waiting for safety. He hadn't been waiting for food or shelter. He had been waiting for him. And somehow, against all odds, his patience had paid off. Daniel drove with one hand on the wheel, the other resting gently on Max's back. The car's heater hummed, filling the space with warmth, but Max barely noticed. He was too busy watching Daniel. His head rested against the man's lap, his tired eyes blinking up at the face he had waited so long to see again. Daniel's fingers brushed through the dog's fur, untangling the knots, tracing the ridges of old scars. The years had not been kind to him. His body was thin, his ribs pressing through his skin. His paws were cracked, rough from endless miles on pavement. His fur was dull, tangled with dirt and dust and time. But his eyes still held the same quiet love, the same fierce devotion. And Daniel knew, he wasn't just bringing home a dog. He was bringing home a piece of his son. The house had been too quiet for too long. A place once filled with laughter, with the sounds of running footsteps and joyful barks, had become just another space for grief to linger. But when they stepped through the door, something shifted. Max hesitated. The warmth hit him first. The scent of wood and old fabric, of something faintly familiar. His paws sank into soft carpet, a sharp contrast to the hard pavement he had known for years. His ears twitched as he took in the silence, not the eerie quiet of an empty gas station, but the kind that promised safety. Daniel knelt beside him, setting down a fresh bowl of food, real food, not scraps from passing strangers. Max's nose twitched. His stomach clenched with hunger. But he didn't move. Not yet. Because something else caught his attention. A picture on the wall. Faded at the edges, slightly tilted in its frame. A boy, smiling wide, his arm draped around a golden-furred dog. Max's tail gave the faintest wag. Daniel followed his gaze. His throat tightened. His voice, when it came, was barely a whisper. He would have been so happy to see you. Max let out a slow breath, a deep, tired sigh. Then, for the first time in 7 years, he curled up in a warm bed, tucked safely in the corner of a home that had never forgotten him. His body relaxed, his breathing slowed, his eyes drooped. For the first time in years, he slept without listening for the sound of a car that would never come. The world had moved on. Seasons had come and gone. People had passed through the gas station, sparing a glance, maybe a moment of pity, but never understanding. They had seen a stray. A lost soul. A mystery they couldn't solve. But Max had never been lost, not to himself. Not to Daniel. Not to the boy who had loved him first. And now, after 7 years, the wait was over. News of their reunion spread fast. First, it was whispers in town. A cashier telling a customer. A trucker mentioning it over coffee. Then, someone shared the story online, a photo of Max curled up beside Daniel, his weary eyes finally at peace. Within hours, it exploded. Headlines painted him as a miracle. The dog who waited 7 years, loyal to the end. People around the world saw his story, and something in them shifted. They saw the love in his eyes. The devotion. The quiet, unshakable faith that had carried him through 7 long winters. And they wept. Not just for Max. Not just for Daniel. But for something deeper. Something universal. Because everyone had lost someone. Everyone had felt the sting of time stealing away what once felt permanent. And in Max's patience, in his unwavering belief that love could last beyond loss, people saw hope. Daniel read the messages with trembling hands. Hundreds. Thousands. Strangers thanking Max, strangers promising to hug their own pets a little tighter that night. Strangers who suddenly remembered the dogs they had left behind, the ones who had waited by doors that never opened again. But Max didn't care about the world watching. He didn't care about the cameras, the interviews, the sudden flood of attention. He only cared about one thing. Daniel. He followed him from room to room, never letting him out of sight. He slept curled at his feet, his tail giving the faintest wag in his sleep, as if dreaming of the moment he had waited for all those years. And Daniel no longer slept in silence. No longer woke to a house too empty, too still. He woke to warmth. To movement. To the sound of paws padding across the floor. Some nights, he would find Max sitting by the framed photo of his son. Just sitting. Just looking. And in those moments, Daniel swore, just for a second, he could feel his boy there, too. Because love never fades. Not really. It lingers in the quiet spaces. In the echoes of laughter that never fully disappear. In the weight of a head resting against your chest after too many years apart. Max had lost time. But love had no time limit. He had waited for the person he loved most. And in the end, his patience had been rewarded.